And our next speaker, actually this whole section of the program until the end, I guess, today has to do with, mostly to do with enterprise networks. And of course, security is a big part of that. So we're very happy to have with us today Ryan Orsi. He's Director of Product Management at WatchGuard, one of our sponsors. Ryan, come on up here. I hope you're okay following the chairman.
It's big shoes to fill. Hopefully I can, it's a tough act to follow there, but hopefully I can make something happen.
Great to have you, thanks.
All right, so I'm Ryan Orsi, Director of Product Management for WatchGuard. We are a cybersecurity company. My background is actually in RF. We did some RFIC design, some antenna design, electromagnetism, really deep dark Wi-Fi and wireless magic. And I find myself at a cybersecurity company. And I ask myself, what are these guys looking for Wi-Fi for? What's the purpose? And over the course of 4 years, it's come very, very clear to me that my mission in life is to inform and to advise the industry, the folks in the room here, about the seriousness of Wi-Fi hacking and Wi-Fi security in general. So that's my mission today, to advise you all on the current state of Wi-Fi security and Wi-Fi hacking. And I'm going to also ask for a couple of favors. So shake the legs out, get ready for a few favors. What's on the screen here is called the Trusted Wireless Environment. And that's the title of this presentation. You're probably wondering, what is a trusted wireless environment? We will define it, we'll get to it, but we're also going to help educate everybody on a common understanding around Wi-Fi hacking. What I've learned over the course of working with WatchGuard, and I've done hundreds of presentations in all countries around the world, unanimously, this is such an ambiguous topic, Wi-Fi hacking, Wi-Fi security. There's not a very common understanding about exactly what the attack vectors are, what the threats are like, how you detect an attack happening, and how you prevent an attack. So what we're doing here today is looking for some educational elements here around Wi-Fi security. First and foremost, let's kind of get down to business. We have to admit it. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror and understand that as an industry, we lack sufficient standards around layer 2 Wi-Fi security. Pause there for a second, right? I'm not meaning to poke anybody in the eye, but this is just facts. We don't really have great security standards around layer 2 Wi-Fi security. And as we go through the next few slides, I think that'll become more and more apparent to us. What do I mean by layer 2 Wi-Fi security? Why is that such a big deal in my world right now? And it's because it is affecting all of your worlds, all of your friends and your families and your colleagues that use Wi-Fi. It is affecting them, and we need to do something about it. For 20 years, 6 Wi-Fi threat categories have existed. Very proud and happy to be here with Klaus as our host and celebrating 20 years of Wi-Fi. But the facts are that these 6 fundamental, very actually simple to initiate attacks have been around for 20 years. And in the world of cybersecurity, that'd be like saying that a Trojan or a worm or something has been around for 20 years with no signature or no countermeasure to be able to properly stop these things from happening. And anyone can really learn how to hack. I learned how to hack on YouTube, about 20 minutes worth of videos. When you search Wi-Fi hacking or hack Wi-Fi on YouTube, you're not getting a lot of educational elements that teach you, how to protect yourself or how to look for warning signs of certain issues. You're getting straight up tutorials on how to initiate Wi-Fi attacks. You'll be given links to open source tools and kits to be able to actually make hacking a heck of a lot easier. So the trusted wireless environment, the topic of this presentation, is really a technical framework. Remember how I said, we don't really have a great common language when we're talking about Wi-Fi hacking? The trusted wireless environment is a technical framework. It's like a definition. And we're providing it to the industry that defines what we believe should become new minimum layer 2 security standards to protect the world. I notice the world is in red because I really do mean everybody. Like that nice woman looking there, that's my mother, that's Julie Orsi, and on a recent webinar series, she represents the average Jane, the average Joe person using Wi-Fi. She doesn't know technical things like, if you're on public Wi-Fi traveling, maybe you should use a VPN to keep your connection secure. So I asked her, hey mom, on an interview live on a webinar chat, what do the 3 letters VPN mean to you? And we scratched out what it really is, and she defined it as a Valentine party network. That represents kind of the level of understanding of most common consumer-based users, right? So the solution that we're talking about here, what we hope to become more of a standard is to protect the world. People that are not so technical, like my mom, right? She uses technology in her daily life. She absolutely uses Wi-Fi. But she doesn't know what a VPN is. She doesn't know how to install that app or software on her phone to protect herself. So the solution has to be simple, easy, something that the consumer-based user doesn't have to really think about. They're just protected out of the gates. So the 6 Wi-Fi threats that I mentioned, right, that have existed for 20 years. Let's see if we get any hands raised on if this resonates with you as I go through these 6 threats. This is what part of the trusted wireless environment brings, is standard definition, right? I was in Denmark, I was in Sweden, I was in the UK, I've been in Chile this year, Santiago, some great resellers down there, and we're trying to talk about, hey guys, do you see these kinds of threats with your customers, their IT service providers? Do you see these threats? Do you see these issues? And they start nodding their head, yes, yes, but we call that this. We call that threat that. There is no common language yet. So what we hope to bring is some common terminology. And the first one, you're all gonna giggle, because it's the only one that people really have understood. The rogue access points. As an example here, and a clear definition is this is an access point physically cabled into a network that's not supposed to be there. Right, so the very common example that we give is picture a company, maybe they're like a big box retail company, for example, very sensitive to any kind of data breach or loss of information. If anyone with access to a server closet or a networking closet were to plug in an 802.11 enabled device and hide it among the wires, that's an excellent example of what a rogue access point can do. It's essentially like a super long Ethernet cable over the air, that lets them have access to a private network. The evil twin access points, sometimes this is where things get a little fuzzy, because people have different definitions in their minds and perceptions about what an evil twin access point is. But the facts are, every single one of you in this room can launch the beginnings of an evil twin attack right now. If you take your phones out and you take a look at the Wi-Fi SSIDs available in this room that we have right now, I see Hyatt Wi-Fi with a little @ sign in the beginning. If you change your phone's name to Hyatt Wi-Fi with an @ sign in the beginning, and you turn on your personal hotspot, you are broadcasting the same SSID from an illegitimate evil twin, your phone, that a legitimate access point in this room is also broadcasting. Now, the bad guys go a few steps further, right? They take whoever connects to that actual evil twin, they take that communication and that traffic and they plug it into, say, a laptop running some hacking tools. Now they can do things like intercept all traffic that you're using. You think you're just connected to the internet. You're launching your cloud applications, you're looking at your email, your apps are refreshing, sending over usernames and passwords. Much of that can be intercepted. Many of the times, HTTPS can be diverted and downgraded to HTTP. And as victims, as users, you think you're just accessing the internet. So this, in my opinion, is one of the most dangerous of the 6. Crack, in 2017, you might recognize that. That was the key reinstallation attack. These are just facts, right? We found through Matthew Van Hoff, found that, hey, there were some vulnerabilities, and there's vulnerabilities in absolutely everything, right? So you can't really poke at one thing in particular, but the beginnings of how that attack started required what are the beginnings of an evil twin attack, spoofing the MAC address of a legitimate access point. That's how that whole attack chain started to occur. Recently, Dragon Blood with WPA3, we caught it fast enough, and I'm really happy about that, right? WPA3, the Dragon Blood vulnerabilities, also had a number of vulnerabilities that required an evil twin style attack. So this still keeps coming up over and over throughout history. So when I say we need new ways to mitigate these kinds of security risks, that's what I mean. Encryption is absolutely a key element of securing a Wi-Fi connection, a wired connection as well. But layer 2, right, is how a lot of these attacks are occurring. A neighbor access point. Not one that many people cognitively think about on a daily basis, but it's an absolute, very nasty security risk. So for this one, picture an example of, say, a healthcare environment, maybe a hospital, for example. You have nurses, you have physicians with tablets, and they're a little upset, like on their break, they have 5-10 minutes to themselves, they want to go grab a coffee downstairs. They're upset that that corporate firewall is blocking access to a certain web page or website, and they want to relax. What do to get around when websites are being blocked on their corporate Wi-Fi? They choose some other kind of Wi-Fi. They choose maybe the hotspot next door or the guest Wi-Fi in the lobby. So they select on that tablet, which likely has very personally identifiable information located on it, they select another SSID. That's a neighbor AP. If that AP were being actually broadcasted like from a friend, my pineapple friend here in the audience, that would be a very nasty security risk, where that physician is connecting to an illegitimate AP, sending all that patient information into the wrong hands. So that's a neighbor AP threat. A rogue client, pretty nasty threat here if you think through it. What happens to victims, laptops and phones and tablets, if they connect to an illegitimate access point, and it's one of these smart guys running a laptop that's hosting a fake splash page that exploits well-known browser vulnerabilities, installs something on that device, and then that person takes that piece of malware now on their device back into the corporate network. It's bypassed all sorts of very cool perimeter security controls, and it's replicating across the network. So that rogue client, if it has been detected as this phone has connected to an illegitimate AP, it needs to be quarantined on layer 2. It should not be allowed to associate to any 802.11 radios in the airspace until it's validated to be clean of all malware on that device. The last threat, I'd say this is kind of vertical specific, but number 6 is ad hoc networks. Now it's a bit of a buzzkill, right? Because who loves to share files laptop to laptop or phone to phone? It's so easy, it's so convenient. The bad news is, right, for some particular industries, maybe finance comes to mind, right? Some particular industries, they have to absolutely have very, very detailed audit logs of what employee shared what file with whom at what date and what time. When you send things laptop to laptop or phone to phone using Wi-Fi, that traffic is all invisible to the network administrators. So they lose sight, they lose visibility of what's going on their network. So ad hoc connections in certain industry verticals are a nasty security risk. So hopefully that is some basic definitions of the threats. Misconfigured AP. This is one I almost forgot about. I'll give you the use case example. Very common, right? In many service provider models, you are configuring APs and deploying them into the field. Sometimes you outsource the configuration to maybe a third party, a subcontractor, and they're configuring controllers, and they're configuring settings. Maybe a junior admin gets their first day on the job, and they make a human error. Never happens to me, but some people make human errors. And they might have accidentally shipped out an AP with an open SSID, and it should have been encrypted. Right? That's a pretty nasty vulnerability. So the system we're talking about, the solution should be able to identify this AP does not match the accepted templated configuration policy. There's an SSID connected to a VLAN that should be encrypted, and it's wide open. So therefore, prevent any client from associating to this vulnerable AP. So block the layer 2 connection. Now, this is the fundamental thing where if what I'm saying hasn't quite clicked yet, this is usually when the light bulbs come on in other presentations is answer the question in your own minds. You don't have to shout at me just yet. We can talk later. But how do you as humans or technology as devices determine that the SSID is broadcasted from a legitimate source? And this is why in 2018, we predicted in 2019 that encryption protocols can be bypassed, because even if you're handshaking with a higher encryption level, you could be handshaking with a bad guy. You could be handshaking with a pineapple kind of person like Jim Steinbacher here. So how do you tell as a human being? You're looking at your phone, you see a padlock for secure, or you see just the little Wi-Fi symbols for open, but how do you tell if it's a legit source or an illegitimate source? Again, like I said, the 2017 attacks, a lot of them initiated this way by, in an evil twin attack, like I just explained, change your phone's name to whatever Wi-Fi is in the air, turn on the hotspot. You're not gonna do anything than cause some trouble with connection issues, but there's another way to do an evil twin, which is make an exact replica. You look at the air, you see the BSSID or the MAC address on that SSID that's broadcasted from the legitimate AP, and you copy it and broadcast it from your illegitimate AP. Now, to the device that has remembered other SSIDs it's connected to in the past, will search for that SSID, and it will find an exact copy, an exact evil twin of the legitimate AP. In 2018, if you guys didn't see this story, I highly encourage you to check it out and read it. There was a Russian cybercrime ring called GRU, no relation to Despicable Me as far as I can tell. My kids kind of find it a little bit funny in that regard, but they used battery-powered, LTE-equipped for the backhaul evil twin attacks. And they would literally park their cars, or they would carry backpacking, sit in hotel lobbies like this, where folks like us of industry are meeting and talking and presenting, key industry insights. And they were looking to intercept data, and they did it in the United States. They did it in Canada, all across the European Union, and in Brazil. By the time somebody caught on, they did figure out what was going on, and they were using something like the pineapple that my buddy Jim here knows all about. It's essentially a more sophisticated phone, right? It just has more software hacking tools on it, but it's absolutely exploiting the evil twin attack. If you guys didn't see, this little WatchGuard booth we have on the side here, there is a video looping. I claim no responsibility here, right? But we did actually, prior to 2018, record a video of me driving a car underneath the parking garage, or the car park, depending on what country you're from, underneath legitimate actual offices, broadcasting an evil twin attack, and we tricked our CEO into connecting to the evil twin and then intercepting all of WatchGuard's financial information and his wine.com password. And that's actually exactly what the Russian cybercriminals did. They just broadcasted an evil twin signal. People can select it, but your devices that have Hyatt Wi-Fi automatically saved in them, please don't do that, by the way, will automatically associate, and you just don't know. It looks like you're on the internet. 2019, recently, and again, I'm very happy that we caught this early on, because I do think WPA3 is the right direction for us. There were some downgrade attacks, where basically the researchers figured out how to downgrade WPA3 to WPA2 and basically bypass all of the cool security protocols that we've added into WPA3. Now that's fixed. It's a software fix. It's out of the way. It's behind us. But the fact is, it was an evil twin style attack that got us there. So we have to do something about this. Now, in a trusted wireless environment, remember, it's a technical framework. What it says is install wireless LAN equipment that can meet 3 requirements, right? So deal with it at the infrastructure level so that consumers don't have to do anything else. Number 1, make sure the Wi-Fi works, the performance is high. So whatever security solution that we're talking about, it should not drop performance. From an architecture perspective, that means look at access points with an additional security radio. Or if it's a dual radio AP, look for a mode they can operate in that just provides security. Management, as practitioners out there, human error can creep in. You have to be able to have a wireless LAN controller and a wireless security policy configuration that scales. You don't want to have to redo especially your security policies if you hit the maximum number of APs on that controller, right? So look for a solution that doesn't have a limit on that controller. And most importantly, verified security, right? So very simply, a trusted wireless environment meets these 3 things, and the security element just says that the solution can automatically detect and automatically prevent those 6 threats. So full stop the hacking. People and devices won't have to determine what is good or what is bad, because if the solution and the infrastructure takes care of it for the average person, their lives don't change. They just get safer Wi-Fi. Right? We're not advocating for additional software or additional configuration tools. It's more about, can you bake this into the standards at the protocol level so infrastructure can take the burden and can take the load away from the consumer? Now, what does it look like if an end user at a cafe or an office place is inside of a trusted wireless environment? From their perspective, there is an access point operating somewhere in the ceiling. It's connected to a switch. That user is using a laptop, like an office laptop, and there is an attacker nearby, maybe in the lobby. This attacker, if they can try to get in 2 ways, Ethernet wired side, and if they do that, if they try to plug something in, a trusted wireless environment means that traffic coming from that attacker would be blocked. ARP poisoning, tar pitting, basically killing all the traffic coming from that threat. The attacker could also try to get in over wireless, over the air. If that were to occur, then the AP's radios should be able to intercept and block that traffic as well. That's using techniques like, very common, right? Deauthentication techniques. Basically, the AP tells that attacker to disassociate over and over and over until it gives up and stops trying to launch the attack. It also provides Wi-Fi, right? So this thing is providing Wi-Fi to a user, and it is mom-friendly. That's the most important piece. She didn't have to install software. She didn't have to determine what was a good SSID or a bad SSID. If she tried to connect to a bad SSID or her phone auto-connected, it would be disconnected over and over until the phone gives up and connects to the legitimate source. So I would also urge anyone in the managed services industry to think about security as a revenue potential for yourselves, for your businesses. New source of revenue, right? If you're thinking about Wi-Fi, you're thinking Wi-Fi access, performance, getting people connected. I would also think about Wi-Fi security as a new managed security service. We have several people around the world that have thought about this, and we've seen some great innovation about how they can add additional revenue streams. You can also think about security assessments. I guarantee, if you're in this business, you have clientele that need an assessment. Assess the security profile from a wireless LAN perspective. That's what a trusted wireless environment can also do for you, as well as pre-compliance before they get to those expensive full compliance tests. So ultimately, this is our vision, right? I've heard it said before, the icon is worth $1 million, right? The icon on a phone, on a device, we want to see someday, at the standards level, some kind of icon that represents legitimate Wi-Fi SSID. Not just encrypted versus unencrypted, but legitimate. So this is our hope for the future, and for you all to get involved, the last favor would be to sign the petition at trustedwirelessenvironment.com. We're advocating to try to get this initiative moved along through the industry. Thank you all for the time. I think I'm right at 0, so Klaus.
Well done, sir.
Appreciate being here.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Ryan. We have time for 1 or 2 questions, for quick ones for Ryan. I think I probably know the answer to this question.
Sure.
When you are out there in the field, where is the demand mostly coming from? It should, in principle, come from everywhere, right? But there's probably some segments, like you mentioned, healthcare, maybe financial services. Is that sort of where you guys are at right now? Or
I would say it's a bit broad, right? I mean, we get surprised all the time about what verticals really identify with wireless LAN security issues. Definitely retail. Most retailers, they've heard horror stories. They're concerned about a data breach. They're liable for a lot of information. So retail for sure. Healthcare, universally. Doesn't matter what country you're in, healthcare is very concerned about this. And state and local governments absolutely care about this.
Right.
So.
And you guys are making good progress all over the world. You're traveling the world, Ryan. I keep seeing you in my home country, Denmark, and many other places.
I was nearby. Yeah, we should hook up next time.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. The last question is for Ryan. Ryan is here. He's in the expo, I think.
I am. I'll be here today and tomorrow as well.
Okay.
So.
Great to have you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.